I'm joined by Shahida Omar from the Teddy Bear Clinic. Thank you so much for coming in, as always, especially for these very, very difficult conversations. We are told that this girl, who's now 8 years old, did very well in giving her testimony in camera. And the spokesperson from the MPA making the point that it was very important for her to make a statement today, especially after hearing the version of events from Nicholas Ninow in terms of establishing a timeline of what exactly happened on that horrendous day last year. Where would an organization like yourselves has often been involved in preparing children for these types of court proceedings? Where do you even start in preparing a child for this?
So I think what we would like to just make a point of, that was it really necessary? Yes, so she testified well, but we look at the best interest of the child, and this child has gone through so much pain and trauma already, and looking at a trajectory, one cannot guarantee that she's going to be the same child she was. Everybody changes every second, but just the normality that she used to be used to, I think we have to consider that. And putting her through this kind of ordeal, was it really necessary? Looking at the best interests of the child, we take a strong stand against that. We mustn't confuse the issues here. But coming back to your question regarding preparation of any victim, any child victim who has to go forward and testify in court, the important thing is that we would ensure that we would do a section 213-170A looking at the fact of undue mental stress, where it would support that the child does not testify in an open court, but with the support of an intermediary and via CCTV. However, the point of departure is always not telling the child what to say in court. It's enabling the child, empowering the child, equipping the child. So making the child understand the importance of speaking the truth, that the child is able to distinguish between a truth and a lie. And also giving the child the ability and the power to say that it's okay to say, I don't remember, or I can't remember any of the details, but also to say to the child that it's okay to say, I'm tired, that I need a break, or I need to go to the toilet, or I'm just absolutely finished. So those are the kind of things we take the child through. Never, ever having merits of the case. The court prep counselor will have no prior knowledge of the case on hand. So the court prep counselor would only focus on helping the child identify who's who in the room, in the zoo there, in the courtroom, the magistrate, the role of the magistrate, the prosecutor, and why would the prosecutor ask the child questions, so that the child would have to give evidence in chief, where he or she would then, give their full story, and sometimes the prosecutor would cross-examine for purposes of clarification.
If the child is giving this testimony via a CCTV, so cameras, she wouldn't be in the room where the magistrate would be sitting. Would she be able to see the person who is speaking to her and asking her questions?
So she would not be seeing anybody. She would actually not even hear them. It would be via the intermediary. It's to protect the well-being of the child, to prevent secondary victimization and trauma. However, talking about the case itself,
the trauma in itself,
it recalls the actual incident and reliving, the actual pain and trauma. So it's opening up that raw wound once again for the child. For an adult, it immobilizes one. One feels trapped and frozen. So for a child, this is compounded so many times more. And I think that is what we need to factor, because there was corroborating evidence, and the alleged perpetrator who acknowledged admission. So why are we putting children through the secondary victimization when it is not necessary? And we are regulated by the Children's Act, and the child's best interests are paramount.
This horrendous event happened late last year. It must be quite a process in a very long journey that starts with one foot being put in front of the other, when a child who's gone through something like this has to be helped to recover. It hasn't been a year yet, but one would think that there's still a long road ahead for her and her family.
Indeed, and often the question is asked by parents, by family, significant others, will my child heal from this trauma? How long will it take? And our response to that is, how long is a piece of string?
Indeed.
Each individual is unique. Each individual responds to trauma differently. Some people may be affected for life and may not be able to bounce back with the resilience. However, I think the important thing is that the support that primary caregivers provide their child, and with professional intervention, we have seen positive outcomes, but it's always unpredictable in terms of long-term behavioral outcomes. We've seen people who have been victimized as children and later on are predisposed to self-defeating, self-destructive behaviors such as substance abuse, promiscuity, self-mutilation, depression. So there are many negative outcomes and possibilities, but we have seen many positive outcomes where children have bounced back with a force because they've been given the necessary support and professional intervention that they so rightfully deserve.
Just in closing, I was saying at the beginning of my show that in as much as this is a terrible and horrific story that one almost wants to not hear the details of, it's very important for us to keep telling the story so that we are aware of the monsters that our children are at risk of coming across just on an ordinary day out at a restaurant with your family.
Indeed, and my biggest objection is that we as adults are supposed to be there to protect children, but instead, what are we actually speaking to them about? Run, yell, and tell, and beware of stranger danger, beware of this. We are actually instilling anxiety. We are creating a society, a second generation of anxiety-filled children who are watching their back all the time.
And whose innocence have been taken away from them.
Indeed.
Out of fear.
Not being able to play, just the natural thing that comes to children, play, is actually no longer allowed.
Or possible in a society like we have at the moment. Thank you so much. Shaida Omar is from the Teddy Bear Clinic. Always great to have you on to share with us some of your great insights on what is an horrific case that we are following, playing its way out today, involving Dros rapist Nicholas Ninow.